I know there's a such thing as sociopaths or people who are not empathetic or people who aren't sympathetic. I know there's people like that, and majority of the people who are part of Hater Nation, or they troll or they say rude things, and some reaction channels, they are those things. They lack the emotions and feelings of morally doing the right thing, and I feel like doing the right thing is standing up for people who have mental illnesses.
In your own words, Amber, the moral and correct thing to do is to stand up for people with mental illnesses, which is why I will be making this video, because of your persistent and constant misuse of the terms sociopath and sociopathy. You consistently misuse these terms and equate sociopathy and sociopaths with being a bad person, not actually knowing what it is or what it means. Sociopathy, or people who are sociopaths, are actually diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder in the DSM-5. While not inherently a mood or mental disorder, it is a personality disorder. Subsection A describes it as a disregard for and the violation of others' rights since the age of 15, as indicated by one of the 7 subfeatures. 1. Failure to obey laws and norms by engaging in behaviour which results in criminal arrest or would warrant criminal arrest. 2. Lying, deception and manipulation for profit or self-amusement. 3. Impulsive behaviour. 4. Irritability and aggression, manifested as frequently assaults others or engages in fighting. 5. Blatantly disregards safety of self and others. 6. A pattern of irresponsibility. And 7. A lack of remorse for actions. Other diagnostic criterion are B. The person is at least age 18. C. Conduct disorder was present by history before age 15. And D. The antisocial behaviour does not occur in the context of schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. Alongside these main characteristics of antisocial personality disorder, sufferers may also have an extreme distrust for other people, therefore having trust issues. If you want to learn more about the diagnosis when it comes to antisocial personality disorder, I would highly recommend this video by Jessica Kent, who herself was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder while she was in prison. The wider damaging stereotype about people with antisocial personality disorder is that they have absolutely no empathy and love to hurt people. However, this is a myth. One problem with antisocial personality disorder is that it is mostly diagnosed after someone has already committed a violent crime. With a substantial amount of diagnoses of this disorder taking place in prison, it doesn't actually have population validity. It's like going to a women's only Alcohol Anonymous group and coming to the conclusion that women are more likely to be alcoholics than men. The same way that if you survey antisocial personality disorder sufferers in a prison, you're going to think that, oh, people with antisocial personality disorder are more likely to commit crime. There's also a problem with cause and effect. The DSM diagnostical material states that the antisocial behaviour must not derive from substance abuse. This basically states that antisocial behaviour fueled by the influence of drugs would not contribute towards a diagnosis. However, certain characteristics of the disorder, such as recklessness, impulsivity, and a lack of concern for their own well-being, means that some people with antisocial personality disorder may be drawn towards substance abuse, and there are many studies that link antisocial personality disorder and addiction. The National Epidemiologic Survey on Alcohol and Related Conditions found that around 10% of men who suffer with an alcohol addiction have antisocial personality disorder, compared to 6.6% of women. So we have the chicken and the egg problem. Are they addicted to certain substances because of the impulsivity that comes along with their disorder, or are they acting in an antisocial way because of their addiction? So we've talked about what antisocial personality disorder actually is, the diagnostical criteria for it, and certain problems with the diagnostic material. But what actually causes antisocial personality disorder? Risk factors include a diagnosis of a childhood conduct disorder, a family history of antisocial personality disorder or other personality disorders, or mental health disorders. Being subjected to abuse or neglect during childhood, unstable, violent or chaotic family life during childhood. A number of studies report that children of alcoholics exhibit a higher prevalence of attention disorders, as well as of aggressive and delinquent behaviour, whereby these behavioural problems are associated with later alcohol misuse. This extract is from the introduction of the Barnow 2007 study, whose hypothesis was that children of alcoholics will have a higher prevalence of antisocial behaviour than those without alcoholic parents, and the results showed that the hypothesis was correct. Further studies indicate that the presence of a single alcoholic parent will also increase the risk of somebody developing antisocial personality disorder. However, it's generally accepted that it is a mix of genetics and having the disposition to develop the disorder alongside an unstable and abusive environment that will cause antisocial personality disorder. As well as this, it's how people deal with their trauma. Males tend to externalize their trauma, whereas females internalize it, which may explain the gender difference, with 70% of antisocial personality disorder sufferers being male. What about some of the myths surrounding antisocial personality disorder, and how this stigmatizes an already pretty badly thought of disorder? There's also actually discrepancies as to how much empathy a sociopath or someone with antisocial personality disorder may or may not feel. It's not actually a complete consensus that every single person with antisocial personality disorder can't feel any emotions. Meffer et al. 2013 suggested that people with antisocial personality disorder do feel empathy, but somewhat have the ability to switch it off. Of course, not every single person who experiences trauma is going to develop this personality disorder. However, it may be a coping mechanism to switch off certain emotions or empathy in certain situations. With this theory, it's actually a survival mechanism to shut down your emotions and your empathy during a situation that can be psychologically and emotionally detrimental to the person. This leads on to what a person with antisocial personality disorder views themselves as. Many people would think that they just simply don't care about not being able to feel these emotions, but down below I'm going to link articles written by people who have antisocial personality disorder and the complete and utter fear and panic they experience when they realise, I didn't feel bad for doing that thing. I'm defunct, there's something wrong with me, I'm going to be like this forever. They do experience these emotions and these concerns when they realise they are showing symptoms of the disorder. There's also a spectrum to when it comes to the numbing of emotions. For example, person A experiences a loss of some kind, and person B, who doesn't have antisocial personality disorder, comforts them and empathises with them. Person C has antisocial personality disorder and just doesn't feel the need because they are not empathetic towards person A. However, person D has antisocial personality disorder and does feel bad for person A, just not as much as person B does. Both C and D have antisocial personality disorder, but the degree that they can actually empathise with another person varies. Another myth is that a person with antisocial personality disorder cannot form genuine friendships or relationships or fall in love. This is not true. They can in fact have all of these things, but all of their relationships, platonic or romantic, are more likely to be unstable due to their lack of empathy or their different degrees of empathy. They'll find it hard to compromise when it comes to conflict because they will be unable or find it very hard to empathise with the other person's perspective. But they can have genuine friendships and relationships and fall in love and be happy like everybody else. It just takes a lot of time and understanding and treatment for them to have stable ones. It's not like these people are purposely going around kicking kittens for the fun of it, which is another myth that every single person with the disorder is going to be violent and horrible and will abuse animals and kill people. A myth again which comes from the problem with diagnosing mostly in prisons where crimes have already been committed. Yes, there are some people with antisocial personality disorder that do in fact do those things, but for a lot of people with the disorder, why bother committing such an extreme act for minimal pleasure? Because again, numbed emotions, decreased empathy, it just doesn't make sense. So what about the people who have this disorder that aren't committing crime? Well, people with antisocial personality disorder make great bankers, CEOs, political leaders, military leaders, and all round are good people to look for when looking at a logistic situation, because they will look at what is most beneficial and the most beneficial outcome to them and the people they work for, rather than the emotional impact. They might not always make the most ethical and morally correct decisions, but they will make one that's best for the overall majority, which is why they're so good in these types of jobs and would much prefer to be working in them than be in prison. So we've explained what antisocial personality disorder is, the diagnostical criteria, problems with the diagnostical material, causes, and myths. But what about another myth? What about treatment? Antisocial personality disorder can't be treated, or can it? There are actually a wide variety of treatments available for people with this disorder, including psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, mentalization-based therapy, democratic therapeutic communities. Medications may be prescribed such as carbamazepine and lithium to aid in their impulse control. However, there's little evidence that any other types of medications can help with any other aspect of antisocial personality disorder. What people should take away from this video is that sociopathy or antisocial personality disorder is not synonymous with being a terrible, abusive person. While it is true that cases that go undetected, untreated, and without intervention can lead to devastating and harmful consequences, this is not the case for every single person. And one of the main problems when it comes to these people seeking help and getting that intervention to cope with their disorder and their issues is to stop the stigmatization, so they feel comfortable actually seeking that help, rather than having the entirety of society telling them that they're terrible people and they can't be treated anyway, which is in both cases factually untrue. The preconceived notions we have about antisocial personality disorder and sociopaths is a direct reflection of the media, the fear-mongering portrayal by movies, the news, and YouTubers. And Shane Dawson films an entire documentary based on antisocial personality disorder, having a therapist read out the DSM definition and criteria overlapped with sinister music. The glaring neglect of the therapist, glossing over the fact that there is a great general population invalidity issue, which causes a confirmation bias because most of these diagnoses occur at a certain time and place in prison when they've already been arrested, therefore not representing people with antisocial personality disorder as a whole. When he then goes out and flails his arms in fear at the fact that 1 in 100 people have this disorder. When people like Amberlynn Reid relentlessly substitute the word sociopath to mean terrible, horrible, abusive person, these are all the things that contributes to these people not seeking help, their problems getting worse, and then the cycle continues. It is the responsibility of a person to seek their own help. But how are they supposed to do that if every single day the myths keep churning and they shout louder than the facts? They're terrible, they're not treatable, they're always going to be this way. How are they supposed to get help when they hear that? I'm so sick and tired of seeing supposed mental health advocates drop this word casually like it means nothing. But you are part of the problem. This disorder is already stigmatized. Not enough people know what it is, not enough people are educated in it, and everybody pretty much already has a negative view of the disorder. How exactly are you helping and being a mental health advocate by throwing it around in a negative way? So if Amberlynn Reid wants to be a mental health advocate, she needs to drop the term from her vocabulary unless it's in the right context. And anyone out there who wants to be a mental health advocate, you need to do the same. Because you are not helping, you are being destructive and detrimental to someone else's mental health.